Mario Kart, Nintendo's long-running racing series featuring their world-famous cast of iconic characters. Since its debut in 1992, the series has grown in popularity, with 2017's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe becoming the best-selling entry in the franchise. But Deluxe wasn't a fully new game. It was a repackaging of Mario Kart 8 from 2014. That means it's been over 8 years since we've had a new Mario Kart. Sounds like it's time for a new episode of Next Game.
Next Game.
I'm Shane.
And I'm Adam.
And welcome to Next Game,
The show where we design sequels, prequels, spin-offs, and anything else that we think's fun.
Thank you all for joining us as we design a sequel to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Oh, yeah, but how does this work? Well, Shane and I have designed pitches, and we're bringing them to the table.
That's right. And after we do these pitches, we're going to be sending them off to a special guest who's going to be acting as the video game producer. But first, we got to ask ourselves, Adam, who are we to be coming up with sequels and prequels and remakes and whatever else to video games?
Who are we to be doing this? Why, we are two parts of many folks, two parts of many parts that make up Rerez. Rerez, we cover a lot of game stuff, and we've been doing that for the better part of a decade at this point. We've been covering news, we've been covering software, hardware, anything video game related.
That's right. Our shows have been going on for a while, and we both have a very long history with video games.
We love them.
Yeah. I've personally worked for a little bit in PR, so I've been in the development side. I've seen hardware development up front. I've been in a lot of those spaces, but together we have this combined crazy ideas, and we've always talked about what we want in a sequel to a video game, and that's really what the show's about, is us kind of coming up with those ideas and sharing them.
The dream's coming true. We're finally making the show where we can talk about the games that we want to see happen, and then those things will likely never happen.
That's right. And obviously, when we're done our pitches, send them to every single game developer you know, so these games can happen. That's right.
Dr. Sega. Something with the ColecoVision.
Sony guy? I don't know. Sony guy with a business tie, whatever he is. Yeah, we want that guy.
I like that.
Yeah,
that
Sony
rhymed.
guy with the business tie. I wasn't trying to do that. But folks, before we get into any of this stuff, we have to ask ourselves, why this game? Okay, Adam, so you and I have played Mario Kart, I think, since it originally came out, right?
Yeah, my history with Mario Kart has been a touch spotty, but I did start with the original Super Mario Kart way back in the day, in the early 90s with the Super Nintendo. And it was the first time I ever saw Mode 7 graphics.
Yeah, my next door neighbor had a Super Nintendo. I didn't. I was a Sega Genesis kid. So, you know, we had our own problems. But with the SNES over at my friend's house, he actually had a copy of the game. And I remember playing it for the first time and being like, wow.
I know. Because Super Mario Kart, like, I had never played and seen or played anything like that. The Mode 7 graphics, the like pseudo 3D of it was really cool, even though there wasn't really any like sort of vertical depth to the field. But just seeing that scrolling and stuff was neat. But also like experiencing a kart racer for the first time. Some people refer to this as the first kart racer. Some people don't.
Yeah.
Some say it's power drift.
You know, there are other kart racers. You're right. But at home to experience that, right? See, so it wasn't even the first Mode 7 game, right? That was F-Zero. F-Zero came out in Japan in 1990 and in 1991 in North America. So we can't even say it's like the first racing game to use this on the SNES, but it's the one that matters.
So I would say that this might be definitively the first kart racing game in what we know a kart racing game today.
Yeah.
So like they're in karts, of course, but when you talk about a kart racer, you always think about like cool courses and you think about power-ups and items and stuff. And all of those things started right there, ground floor with the very first Super Mario Kart. So that's the first one. Yeah, I never had it. I played it at my cousin's place all the time. So it was kind of like a familial gathering thing for us. So that kind of fed into the multiplayer aspect, which was cool.
Yeah.
But historically, you know, we heard that you played it at your neighbor's, right?
All the time, yeah.
What is the rest of your history with the series? Because mine, like I said before, is a bit spotty.
Okay, so yeah, I did play the first one a lot. When the Nintendo 64 came out, again, didn't have a 64. But I did go over to my friend's house to play that all the time.
Dude, same way.
When the Nintendo 64 first came out, we couldn't afford it. So what my dad did was he rented one so that we could actually just play the Nintendo 64 and then return it after like 24 hours, however long it was that we had. But I remember that on that system, I wanted Mario Kart, but it was always being rented out by other people. So what I ended up getting was, I think it was Bomberman and I think GoldenEye. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And it was just one of those things where you played as much as you could, as often as you could. But yeah, when I would go to a friend's house, no matter whose friend's house it was, if they had a Nintendo 64 and they had Mario Kart, that was the game you would play.
That was what you were doing, because there was this sort of like ease of play with that. Where like, yeah, GoldenEye was like another fun sort of multiplayer game.
Oh, sure.
There's kind of a wall of difficulty and like a learning curve with Mario Kart. Even to this day, all of the entries are very easy to get into and to understand the items and how the races work and stuff.
Yeah. I remember the very first time I played in Nintendo 64 was Nintendo had some weird event. My mom knew about it somehow, and we went to Ontario Place, and I remember I'd never been here before, so we go into this giant dome, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like everything was on floating pavilions and stuff. I didn't know what this place was. It was this place that was trying to show futuristic stuff, and I remember we went there, and I got to play Mario 64 for the first time. The visuals of Mario 64 were so amazing. And when you played Mario Kart at the time, I was like, this looks so cool. But at no point did I ever acknowledge the fact that just like the original Mario Kart game, it was 2D sprites.
Yeah, that didn't really sink into a lot of our skulls back in the day because everything else was 3D, and you thought of the Nintendo 64 as a 3D console. I guess we just sort of saw past that. The CG style sprites, the same as the Donkey Kong style sprites that they used for those racers and stuff, were so convincing of their sort of 3D nature, and the fact that like the sprites were made in such a way that you could spin them around completely in a 360 degree angle. It made it so that it's like to your eye, it basically was a really, really well rendered 3D polygonal image, even though it wasn't.
Absolutely. Honestly, when I never really thought about the characters not being 3D models until I played Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong Racing, because that was like when I saw that, I was like, Oh yeah, I guess in Mario Kart they weren't 3D models. I never thought about that.
This may be heresy, but I thought Diddy Kong looked a little uglier.
Yeah.
The characters looked a little uglier.
There's more details in the pixels for sure in that time period, right?
So, okay, Super Mario Kart on the SNES tentpole release. Mario Kart 64, definitely a tentpole release.
That's right.
But there've been like what we're talking about, the sequel to Mario Kart 8. There've been so many of these games. Did you dabble with much of the rest of the series?
Didn't have a Game Boy Advance. I got a
Super
DS.
Circuit.
Yes, Super Circuit.
Release. Sure, yeah.
I had a Game Boy Color. I didn't get a Game Boy Advance, and then I transitioned over to a DS where I started playing Game Boy Advance games. So there's that gap there. And I really was more of a Sony player and a Sega player. So I was investing all my money and time into those things, which if you were a Sega kid back then, eventually that investment just crashes. But I did get a huge respect for like the Mario Kart franchise the entire time. But regardless, all these games came out. They were big, but it was Mario. Some were bigger than others. Mario Kart 8. Is where things crash. This is a big deal because we're talking about the Wii U. And so I bought a Wii U day one. Yourself, did you get a Wii U day one?
Oh, yeah. I was living abroad and I had one imported specifically to play all those fantastic Wii U titles.
So
I'm still waiting on them.
Did you get Mario Kart 8?
Yeah, I got it digitally. And to say that it's not the best way to play Mario Kart 8 right now is a bit of an underservice.
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, and we'll talk about 8 Deluxe as well, but at the time, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous on the Wii U. The best looking Wii U title, I think.
But nobody bought a Wii U.
I know.
So nobody bought this
Except
game.
us.
Yeah. You know what? The funny thing is, Mario Kart 8, I remember being there on launch day. Everyone was playing.
Yeah.
People loved this game. The one thing they didn't like, though, was the battle modes, which were terrible.
Yeah.
The battle modes of Mario Kart 8 were some of the worst ideas I'd ever seen. Basically, it was a battle mode, but it took place on a regular track.
That's right.
And you basically still had to race, but you weren't racing.
Yes.
It was so lazy and stupid.
I have not dabbled with much of the battle mode in Deluxe, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but to me, the N64 battle mode is and
iconic.
always will be like my iconic battle mode.
Now, I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did come out. So okay. Now we're up to modern terms.
Yes.
We're not really going to talk about Mario Kart Tour or the most recent release, which is actually like Mario Kart Toys. It's like Mario Kart, like
Home
RC,
circuit?
Home circuit,
I believe.
So it's like it's little RC cars that have like a camera on them and stuff like that, so that you can actually make your own tracks and stuff. Yeah, we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is the latest version of the main series of games, and this is basically the Wii U version with all the fixes, all the DLC they had moved over. Plus, they've added even more content, more characters.
Yeah.
It is just, it's like Super Mario, or it's like Smash Brothers, but for Mario Kart.
Yeah. And if you hear someone saying that it's just a port of a Wii U title, that's not quite true. There's a lot of additional characters. And even as of just recently, they've continued the support of the title. They're going to be continuing it into the end of 2023.
Yeah.
Which goes to show that maybe another Mario Kart's probably not going to be coming out until
that's
shortly
what
thereafter.
I get.
But it's being supported nonetheless with more tracks, and who knows what other content is going to be produced for it in the meantime.
The Switch is a runaway success.
Yeah.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is now the best-selling Mario Kart game by a mile.
Bringing that game over to the Switch was the best idea.
Yeah.
Nintendo, I got to admit, I rolled my eyes every time a Wii U game was ported over to the Switch. But at the end of the day, these games sell better on that platform because the platform's in more hands. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is in the double-digit millions, dozens of millions, and it keeps selling. It continues to sell.
Yeah.
Smart idea. They continue to support it because they see that flow of user base with this title. Long after it was almost a launch title for the Switch.
Yeah.
Almost. It was like a month after.
Yep. I remember playing it. Nintendo invited me to a launch party in Toronto. So I actually got to go there and try it out for the first time. And it was amazing. I was like, well, it's just the Mario Kart 8 I remember, but somehow it's on a portable system and it looks better. It was really confusing because I wasn't expecting it to just look that much better. But hands down, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best Mario Kart game that has ever been released, I believe.
With one stipulation, they didn't bring the horn from the Wii U that you had on the gamepad over to the Switch.
Yes, that's right.
You could use your gamepad in the Wii. Listen to me. You could use the gamepad on the Wii U version. And it just had a big circle in the middle.
Yep.
And you could honk them.
You could.
Like you're playing on like a little, like a trike or something.
Nintendo's sitting there like, yeah, guys, we really want to make use of this.
We can do anything with
this gamepad. This gamepad can do anything we want. So what are we going to do? Honk a horn. And that's what they got.
You could look at your map.
Yeah.
You could use the motion. You could do other stuff too, but let's face it, honking that horn. It was riveting.
It was the only thing that made sense because everything else required you to look down at the screen while you're racing, which is a stupid thing to do. But honk the horn, I didn't have to look. I just go honk, and then I would be fine. It was such, regardless, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yes.
Really, really good. The most tracks, the most racers, the most customizability.
Everyone's here.
Yeah, I think it's got some of the best gameplay because everything feels streamlined, slipstreams and stuff like that. Basically, in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, when you get really close behind a character,
if you stay there for
a while, you can actually get a speed boost because you're behind the break of wind behind them. So I think I said that wrong.
No, you said it in the best way possible, and I think people understand. Yeah. You're behind this vehicle, and the wind's not hitting you, so you don't have that friction on your vehicle.
That's right.
Eventually, you get a little boost from it.
Yes, that's not from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe originally. That's from other games.
Yeah.
But there's also little features where if you go off a jump and you do this little tap jump, you get a little bit of a boost.
That's right.
You can do really good like drifts, and when you're drifting around a corner, you also get a boost from that if you do it right. There's a whole bunch of ways to really make your car go faster, and it's about skill, really.
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
Still
that's
fun.
right. We're bearing the lead a little bit too. We can't forget that Mario Kart 8 and Deluxe both introduced the gravity mechanics.
Yes.
And even though I would say that they don't add, they add more spectacle than like actual utility to the races.
I agree, yeah.
Other than like, yeah, it's technically sometimes a branching path and stuff. But your vehicles had anti-gravity modes where they could go onto walls, and it was pretty seamless. So it just felt like you continued driving for the most part.
That's it. That's what it is.
You'd hit bumpers and you do a spin and then a boost. And if you hit other people while you're in anti-gravity mode, you'd also get a boost.
Yeah. So what I loved about that mode was it's not like you have to manually switch something, which would actually make it more complex. It's an automated feature that just makes the gameplay of it easy. Because at the core of what this is, the boss, not the boss battles, but the battle mode in the game, and there are several different kinds of battle modes. Some of them are not as good as others, but the original one where you've got the little balloons behind your character and you're trying to keep as many balloons as you can and not get hit, that's in this game. It's done very, very well. The multiplayer on here online is fine. Could always be better. It's Nintendo, but at least it works. But hands down, what they've presented here is a clean, easy playing game that anyone can pick up and have a lot of fun with and get better.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Easy to learn, hard to master. That's what this game is.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's exactly why we're picking a sequel to this game.
This game needs a sequel.
Yeah.
It's been almost 10 years. We have to see where it goes next. And yeah, now that everyone understands why we want a sequel, it's finally time to talk about the next game. All right, it's time for us to share our pitches for our Mario Kart games. We've both written a trailer and a back-of-the-box section. That's right. So, we want to explain what back-of-the-box means a bit because... We want to explain what a box is. Because there's people out there that might not actually know this anymore, but back in the old days when we used to go to video game stores, we'd not know what all the video games were, and we'd pick up a box and look behind it and read what the game was about. It's like reading the back of a book. Yeah. And no one does that anymore either. No, really. Physical objects exist, and there's a form of advertising what's inside on the back of them. Back of a video game box, you get some screenshots. That's right. You get some points of what you're going to experience, maybe some of the gameplay, maybe some of the story elements. Yes, but the first thing we did before we get into the back of the box section is actually giving ourselves this fake trailer to sell the idea to everybody of what we're doing. My trailer's not fake, Shane. No, it's real? It's a real deal trailer. All right, Adam, well, let's hear your trailer first. You ready? Yes. 3, 2, 1, go! What a boost! Mario veers through iconic courses, drifting and shell slinging his way to victory. But this time, when the checkered flag drops and the engine purrs wind down, something's different. The racers are baffled. Is it just me, or is it a little quiet? Kinda like the vacuum of, Mario! Mario! Toad races out onto the track. The fans! The bleachers! The audience! There! Swoop! A twirling purple void speckled with starlight manifests. It inhales and pulls the little fungus man. Is it a black hole? Toad latches desperately to the head of a nearby piranha plant. Race us home, Mario! Race us home! And then he's gone, pulled away like every other fan. Can you feel the tension, Shane? Mm-hmm. What? The racers would still be scratching their heads in wonderment if it wasn't for Professor Egad, who quickly went to work tinkering their carts. A few energetic, monkey-wrenching puffs of smoke, and that was that. Ado! Suka suka! Siki siki! The professor says, pointing past the clouds. Translation? You heard the lad. Race them home. What could this mean, Shane? Screech! Mario zips down the track, his newly tinkered car, gaining momentum until a bright flash sparks and bursts from his tailpipe. His car's tailpipe. The cart sprouts wings. A glass half-dome clips down over the driver. He rockets at a 90-degree angle. Splash screen, title. Welcome to Mario Kart Galaxy. Love it. Okay, Mario Kart Galaxy. Clearly, we haven't had a Galaxy game in a while. There's only been 2, really, right? Just the 2? So far 2. Just so far 2. But now there's going to be 3. Looking at the back of the box, number 1. Classic kart driving, item slinging shenanigans,
with a spaced out twist. So levels will feature these things called blast off points where karts can evolve into spacecraft and then be like in the trailer, shot out, flung out into the out of the stratosphere to either race above the track below. So you're starting a regular race, and then you blast off, you're racing above. Now you have more degrees of movement. You can fly past, below, above, to the sides of people, right? And you could also boost a little bit further too. The blast off points will not be standardized necessarily. There could be different levels of them where you could actually blast out into space itself and do some racing up there before heading right back home. I want this game to have a sci-fi twist. There's going to be planetoids that you can go to. Let's say the cups are on various planets and stuff as well. And because this is more of a sci-fi leaning twist, let's go to some interesting or brand new tracks, maybe with a Metroid feel, maybe with a Pikmin feel, because that's like dubiously Earth, things like that. And of course, Star Fox.
Shamelessly use previously established IP.
I mean, we're making a Nintendo game where all the kart racers are there. And every kart racer is going to be there. And I want to be able to go to different planetoids to unlock different characters. Okay, back of the box, number 2. Rainbow Road Spaceway Story Mode.
Ah, okay. Now, this is the thing.
Yeah.
There really isn't a Mario Kart game that has a story mode in it. So what are you thinking here? What are you bringing to this table?
So, Rainbow Road Story Mode, Rainbow Road Spaceway is what I'm calling it. So I want to incorporate story mode in such a way that, you're sort of unlocking a story. I like that. I like veering away from it simply being a racing game. Let's get a little more fun in there. Let's get a little bit of that Mario Sunshine weirdness story-wise. But also, I want to incorporate in this story mode because you'll be unlocking different characters, different things for vehicles, like regular Mario Kart stuff.
Yeah.
I also want there to be sort of an end game for each section, sort of like a story wrap-up beat to every, let's call it, planetoid or cup. I would love to implement sort of a trench run at the end of every major world. Right? 4 races done. You're fighting the boss. It's a gigantic ship that is overlorded by this horrible being.
Okay,
right?
yeah. So like a boss mode, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
right.
in this trench mode, you would be driving and boosting up and flying around all of these gigantic space freighters, and the checkpoint system that you'd be sort of blasting through. Let's say it gives you more time or something. These things would be disengaging the spacecraft itself. They'd be unplugging things, and basically by the time you cross the finish line, you've basically clipped all of the ribbons, all the lifelines that are keeping this gigantic, vicious spacecraft flying. Okay, back of the box number 3. This is a huge one, and in many ways, huge in that, it's called Big Bang power-ups.
Okay.
But doubly huge in that we're finally taking classic Mario power-ups, and you're going to be able to combine them in such a way that they will become a different power-up.
Okay, that's awesome.
This is where things get cool.
Okay, I want to hear this. This
As
is
if
actually
going off into space.
As if going off into
Fox
space
McCloud
wasn't awesome enough.
Wasn't awesome enough. Okay, so Bullet Bill. Yeah, that's a cool power up. It helps you slingshot to near the front of the race if you get it. Red Shell, sure, it hunts down things. What if you combine those two? Bullet Bill plus Red Shell, heat-seeking Bullet Bill. So now you're flying through and picking off all your rivals as you're racing and flying around and stuff.
Like, I don't even care what your fourth idea is, what your fourth point is.
Yeah.
Your first two, cool.
Yeah.
This is the idea. This is the thing that they should actually be doing in Mario Kart right now.
Yeah.
A combination of power-ups makes so much sense.
Here's the thing. In my mind, it makes a great risk versus reward sort of gameplay element because we're so used to, okay, I got the shell, I got the banana peel or whatever. You can use it as a defensive measure. You can fling it in front of you or behind you or whatever. But to actually pick up a power-up and say, oh no, I could use it right now. I could use a red shell. But what if I get something that can amp up this red red shell with the next item pickup. And that's the sort of gambling that you'll have to do in this game.
I absolutely love this. I'm afraid that my idea has nothing as cool as that. That's actually how much I like that
We're
idea.
going to have to wait and see. I got one more back of the box.
It's got a lot to live up to, man, if it can't match that. Okay, let's hear what this is.
Okay, so I have a problem with Mario Kart. And it's not a problem that everyone has, but eventually you get to a point where you've played the same tracks over and over again. And you start to, familiarize yourself with these tracks. And it's cool.
Everybody does this, yeah.
It's cool because, okay, I know when to start drifting. I know where the secrets are.
Sure.
I know how to basically get into first place and stay there for most of these tracks. I want to be able to have a mode where we can shift that up a little bit. And that's where I want to introduce into Mario Kart Galaxy Black Hole mode, which would be a separate mode from story and from traditional gameplay.
Okay, what is that?
So Black Hole mode, just like the toads were sucked into those black holes, these black holes, they will show up on a stage. And I'm considering it like this. You take the traditional stages that you've been playing throughout this game, and then you third or quarter them into the different sections, and randomize where you go from one black hole to the next. So you start the first quarter of your race playing Samus's Bounty Hunter Blast. You go through a black hole, and everyone else goes through a black hole as well. It's unavoidable, all right? Because I want everyone on the same track.
Okay.
Okay?
So just a big giant hole in the middle of the road. Okay.
Yeah. And then you're boosted to one of the plethora of randomized second sections of a map.
That's nice. It's a good way because, look, we've played a lot of Mario Kart.
Of course.
The one thing that happens with those games is after you've played a level like about 100 times, you get bored of it because you've seen it so often. But if you're having some kind of randomization thing between levels, that just changes up the flow.
You played the same course. Let's say it's us. We played the same course forever, right? And then you add in that randomization. That's when you really get to test the skills of each other. Oh, are you really good at Mario Kart? Let's see how you can do when you don't know what's happening next.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I really do.
All right, those were my 4 back-of-the-box points. Sir, I think it's time to hear or see, in the mind's eye, a trailer.
Okay, here we go.
We open to a shot of an asphalt road as 2 cars speed on by. Behind the wheels of these 2 lightning-fast vehicles, Mario and Luigi. They cut some corners, make some jumps, and dodge some obstacles in a friendly but heated race. The camera pulls back to reveal that they're on the iconic first racetrack from Super Mario Kart on the SNES, Mario Circuit 1. As the 2 brothers battle it out, Mario hits a question block and suddenly selects an ability we've never seen before. It jumps into Mario's hand and seems to be glowing brighter and brighter and brighter. Before Mario knows what to do with it, it flies directly into a wall on the edge of the racetrack, destroying the boundary. They drive closer to the new gap in the wall and peer through to see a giant world filled with interconnected roads and tracks, bigger than any racetrack they've ever seen. It looks almost endless. The brothers look at each other, nod their heads, and spin out their tires as they dash into Mario Kart World.
Mario Kart World.
Yes.
It sounds like this is a very big, sprawling adventure.
I really hope that Mario Kart World does sell that idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, basically, I wanted to do something that plays clearly just like yourself with the name of an older Mario game, with its Super Mario World.
You stole my idea.
Little bit.
No, I think we're beyond that point. Like we literally just did my pitch, so
Yeah.
I think you're good.
But yeah. So yeah, and just so everybody knows, right? We don't hear our pitches beforehand, and we wrote these down in advance. So I was not like changing anything up because that would be really, really mean. Though, strangely, I also came up with this power-up idea.
No.
No.
And if you talk about flying into space, I will have your head.
Okay, that's not going to happen. But, okay, so back of the box, feature 1.
Yes.
Open world interconnected tracks. My thought was breaking up the worlds into a couple of sections. So you got the Mushroom Kingdom, the Dusty Desert, the Star City, Bowser Kingdom, whatever. You got a whole bunch of different worlds. And each world has about 4 tracks, kind of like what we've seen with Cups, right? In the original Mario Kart games, you get into one of these cup sections and you race for that cup. You get 4 levels, and then once you've done that, you've beaten it, and you likely, if you've raced well enough, you get to win the cup, the trophy. So what I wanted to do was incorporate the same idea, but it's a big, massive open world where Mario or whichever character you're playing can just drive around in the open world and go to whatever track they want to go to in whatever order they want to go into. But here's the thing. Every time you complete a race, in one of those racetracks, those guys in the clouds, Lakitus,
yeah,
the Lakitus come through and they drop huge asphalt, like a huge road, just onto the ground. And what it does, it connects each racetrack. And then the goal is, for the first time ever, at the end of the 4th race, when you should have won the race completely, what happens is one giant race happens that connects all of those racetracks together, making one interconnected racetrack.
A gigantic marathon of race. So when you think of a race, you think of something that's like closed off and like interwoven into itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
So just one section would be like sort of like turned or disconnected in a way.
Yes,
Is
right?
that it?
You would see it.
And then you could seamlessly go to the next one.
Exactly, right? So you've got that. Then what you do is every time you beat other sections of the world, so like this would be the Mushroom Kingdom with the 4 tracks. Then you'd beat the Dusty Desert with the 4 tracks. Every time you beat a different section and complete all those tracks connect with the other tracks. So at the end of the game, you have one interconnected racetrack that just expands along the entire world. So it feels like one giant racetrack. And the last race you do is one big race around everything. With this game world, what's important to me is at the dead center, there's this kind of open block area that doesn't really have anything built into it. Why I wanted this here was because the outside world is really static and fixed, right? Like everything connects to each other and it's supposed to be designed in one big world. But the dead center needs to be something a little bit more different. So what I wanted to do was take aspects of the world that are like chopped off and clipped together, and you can drop them down and make your own levels in the dead center. So what I wanted to incorporate was the idea that you go up to this place, because again, it's an open world, you can drive around wherever you want. You get to the middle of the level, and then you have the ability to either build a level with the Lakitus, or it just instantly randomizes with preset pieces with a level that can be completed, and it randomizes anytime you click on it. Sometimes you can save those levels and re-edit them yourselves, but you don't have to start completely from scratch, building piece on piece on piece. Now, with making your own levels and stuff like that, because we're dealing with a much more larger open world, the one thing I didn't think would work is incorporating the same kind of battle mode we've seen in the past, where you just pick a level and play it. I wanted like capture the flag. I wanted tag and stuff like that, because you have such a much bigger world to incorporate with. But I also wanted to steal something from the Splatoon games. I want to be able to paint tracks. So if you and a group of friends are driving around, you're trying to drive around as efficiently and as fast as possible to paint as much of the track as you can before the other team does that. And whoever paints the most tracks at the end wins, just like Splatoon. So 2, stunt mode. Now this is important to me because I love the idea of a stunt combo system. I absolutely love Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I know you do too. I know I love the ability of going through a level, capturing the biggest score you can. I really wanted to incorporate that into Mario Kart, because we've seen how these levels can be designed in very cool and interesting ways. So I thought if the world was a lot bigger, wouldn't it be fun to just race around the tracks and jump off things, do in-air moves and stuff like that, and find ways to incorporate a combo system into the gameplay. This is the important part. The combo system only works when you don't hit something. If you hit something or crash or somebody hits you, your combo streak is broken.
Your point accumulation, what does it do?
Well, basically, it's
Does it unlock things?
It can unlock things. That's the next part. Environmental effects. So what I'm basically talking about is dirt roads, wet roads, oil slicks. What I want to happen is when you're in the Mushroom Kingdom, you've got asphalt, you know what you're dealing with, it's very easy roads. When you get to the dusty desert world, it's sand and it's dirt, and you're dealing with a lot of more of a slippery surface. When you get to Star City, you're dealing with things that are maybe a little bit more harder to control, because you've got those little hovercraft things you've seen.
Anti-gravity mechanics from Mario Kart 8, sure.
Everything just controls a little bit differently, and you have to incorporate that stuff because you have different abilities when you're playing that way. And when you get to Bowser Kingdom, the world is hot and the road is just, the asphalt's just melting your wheels. So everything's a lot more slippery. So as you get to every world, as you're unlocking stuff with the combo system, as you're getting points from the combo system, you're racing people, you're doing all that stuff. What all this is doing is you're unlocking components for your vehicle. Now, just like in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, when you go like invert with like upside down, your vehicle instantly turns into what it needs to turn into, right?
That's right.
I want that to stay here. I don't want the player to ever control that stuff. I want it to instantly happen. But the problem is when you first start off the game, you don't have access to all those things. So racing in those sequences is a lot more difficult. So this all comes to a head with the fourth feature, my fourth and final feature.
This is it.
Rally racing point system. You've got this giant level. You've got all these little abilities. But what makes that even worth it? It's a rally system. What I want to incorporate is, look, if you've got this gigantic level that could conceivably take maybe like an hour to race through the entire thing for one lap, you've got all these little features, all these little abilities, you've got all this stuff that changes the race as you're going through. I want that to be a rally. And I want people to be able to actually draw their own little paths and share those paths with their friends so they can make complicated rally races with everybody online and just share this entire experience. The rally point system is basically a way to make Mario Kart focused on racing. I would love to see, like, I know this sounds crazy, but let's say it does take you 30 minutes to go through the entire
you're combining
racetrack.
all the tracks together, so I'm assuming it's going to be very lengthy.
So have like a 10 lap, 30-minute track, right? So you're going like 30 minutes plus 30 minutes plus 30 minutes. It would be an endurance race, right? But that's what rally racing is.
Sure.
We're dealing with a very iconic franchise, trying to incorporate in a way that would make it very attractive and unique and different. Because where Mario Kart 8 is today, that game feels like the Smash Brothers of Mario Kart. It feels like it's incorporated so much stuff together.
They've made it into that, right? They've basically taken Mario Kart 8 from the Wii U and just, more characters, more DLC. We're getting a bunch of new tracks now.
Exactly.
So how do we one-up that? That's why we have some of the ideas that we came to today.
That's right. As a recap of our game concepts, mine was called Mario Kart World. My first back-of-the-box feature, open world. My second, stunt combo system. My third, environmental effects. And my fourth, rally racing point system.
And my game's titled Mario Kart Galaxy. Back of the box number 1, it's classic kart driving, item slinging shenanigans with a spaced out twist. Number 2, Rainbow Road Spaceway story mode. Number 3, Big Bang power-up combos. Number 4, Black Hole mode.
But do these ideas work for everyone? Every game pitch ever made has to win over a producer, making them love the idea more than they hate it. And ours are no exception. So we've sent off our concepts to a special guest for a section that we call Producer Notes. Hey everybody, and welcome back to our Producer Notes section. So what we've done here is we've returned at a later date after sending our next game pitches out to our producer, who's going to be looking at this and seeing which game idea they think is better.
Shane, let me tell you about our producer for today.
Please do.
This week's special guest producer is one of our closest friends who gets to hear Shane and I rant about video games all the time.
Yeah, he really, really does.
It's true. He can be found on YouTube where he reviews everything anime. It's Arcada from Glass Reflection. Mr. Anime Man, what'd you think of our pitches?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. So, Mario Kart. For reference sake, I've been a fan of the series for about as long as I have been gaming. Double Dash is one of my favorite GameCube games of all time, and I have played and completed every major Mario Kart release to date, with the exception of Super Circuit on the GBA. And I have even purchased consoles specifically for the ability to play Mario Kart, like the limited edition DS console, so I could play the DS release. As such, I'd like to say that I am not new to this franchise. So with that in mind, here are my thoughts on your pitches. Adam, I think we can summarize your pitch with the theme that you are going for, Mario Kart Galaxy. Your first big point, having moments in the track where you would blast off to a space section reminiscent of Mario Galaxy and having those racing segments take place in a more 3D space like Diddy Kong Racing rather than being confined to just a track is brilliant. Your second big point, item combinations on paper sound amazing and a cool way to spice up that mechanic without hopefully becoming too complicated. I'd only be worried about how that would affect the purpose of items in Mario Kart. I have always viewed items as the great equalizer in Mario Kart. Items are the handicap for new players to not only try and gain an advantage on veteran players, but also to still make the game fun if you aren't in first place. While item combining doesn't necessarily ruin that, it could become a problem if you were to give more functional items to the leading racers that would, to a negative degree, increase the gap between everyone significantly. If you can keep that balance, then I think item combinations are sweet. If not, toss them. Now, Shane, Mario Kart World. If Adam's pitch was the Twilight Princess following Ocarina of Time, your pitch is the Breath of the Wild following Skyward Sword. First, adding essentially a story mode with a kind of open world mechanic sounds great and is a pretty big departure from previous games. Having all of these tracks in a rally setting as well would be interesting, as there have been elements in other Mario Kart games where environmental effects are prevalent, but I feel like you just want them turned all the way up to 11, and if so, I agree 100%. Now, beyond that is where things get a little bit complicated, but I think we can simplify. Things that you brought up that I really liked. Battle mode and adding that to the story mode. Perfect. You brought up other additional modes like Splatoon Turf War with karts, and you've even added a custom track builder, which I personally think would be a load of fun to play. Not just to make my own tracks, but to also play community tracks, because if Mario Maker has showed us anything, it's that those can be super fun. I will completely come out against your hour-long track idea though. Summarized simply, ain't nobody got time for that. On top of just incentives for people in the latter places to keep playing for that long, there are internet issues and other glitches because we still live in a world where connectivity, especially on a mobile console, is not guaranteed, and saying that these racers will have an hour of uninterrupted internet, I think is a bit too large of an ask.
So we just heard back from Arcata, and wow.
He didn't talk about anime at all.
No, not even a little bit. I gotta be honest though, shocked that he didn't fall in love with the entire power-up combination thing as much as I did. That really is like my favorite idea that you came
all
up
he
with.
said was, if it's balanced right, then cool. And in my game, it is.
Yeah.
So whatever, you know, he saw your ideas as well, and he seemed to really like quite a bit of them. Thinking in hindsight about that gigantic track, there could be some issues though.
I don't think he's gonna go with my idea.
I think he is.
No, because he hated the rally idea is the entire concept that my game is founded on.
There's creation and there's connections. It's a strand game. There's so much going on.
Yeah, but my whole philosophy is long races. I mean, hours long races, and you know, he seemed to really not like that. And he raised a good point. Nintendo has not been really fantastic with online connections and stuff like that. I mean, I actually had problems playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe online, but I still don't care. I want there to be this massive racetrack.
This is on the next Switch, which has perfected the internet.
Oh, yes.
Period.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the sentence. Perfected the internet.
Okay, so who actually won this? Arcata? Let us know.
Well, as for me picking one, I like them both, but if I had to, I would go with Adam.
Adam wins! I knew you were gonna do it.
Oh, I did not think he was gonna pick me. I was like, oh, you know, he described yours as Breath of the Wild for Mario Kart, and to me, that's a good thing.
It was the rally racing. I knew the rally. As soon as he said hour-long races, I'm not into that. I'm like, I've lost it then, because that's the foundation of which my idea is completely built upon.
I still say that you had so many fantastic ideas within your pitch that there's a lot of value there. I'm just better.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yours sounds like an actual Mario Kart sequel, or mine sounds like a diversion to Mario Kart.
I feel like I may have played it a little bit safe by just extending the formula a little bit. But we have two very different ideas. We have someone that went way outside the box and had some really great points, and we had something slightly more formulaic with a twist. I think it was kind of a luck of the draw almost on this one. It could have went either way.
Okay, let's find out why Arcata actually went with your idea over mine.
Do I get a trophy? Is there a trophy?
Now, this isn't Mario Kart. You don't actually get a trophy.
Let's see.
Let's see what's next.
So here's why. Shane, your pitch contains plenty of good ideas. Almost too many. There are a lot of your ideas where I feel like instead of being a mode, would be better served as a different game entirely. Like custom track building. Would that just be better as Mario Kart Maker? Perhaps. So the main question I have with your pitch is, when is the game not Mario Kart anymore? That's the balance I think Breath of the Wild needed to master with Zelda games, and personally, I think it did. So here, you just have to do the same thing. Adam's pitch, I think, was well in line with what we expect out of a Mario Kart game, while still adding a lot to make his entry stand out from previous entries in the franchise. And like comparing the two pitches, the interconnected world idea from Shane's pitch with the black hole tracks idea from Adam's pitch, I think from a thematic standpoint, the black hole idea works much better and is far more customizable as far as like combining levels to form new tracks, because not only would that keep the theming of the tracks themselves and allow them to remain distinct from one another, it also just adds in the theme of the game in a tactful way. For an actual sequel and continuation to Mario Kart, Adam's Galaxy idea feels more like an actual Mario Kart game. Mario Kart started and is the best example of its entire genre, so to stray too far from that, well, then it's not Mario Kart anymore. So that's why Adam's Mario Kart Galaxy, you get the green light from me.
So yeah, this is embarrassing because Mario Kart Maker actually sounds like a far better idea than what I was coming up with.
Maybe there's some universe somewhere where you just pitched that idea and that worked. And I'm not sure.
I don't disagree with Arcada's choice, though. It makes perfect sense. Yours really does sound like a sequel. Mine sounds like a complete changeover. And it's true. It makes the game not feel exactly like Mario Kart. And that's a problem. I think my idea sounds a little bit more complicated in the way you play it, too.
Breath of the Wild does exist.
Yes.
Deviations can happen, but I just have one more thing to say, and that's that Mario Kart Galaxy is going to be coming to a store near you it'll probably be a few years after a logo is revealed. Just hold on to your seats.
Yeah, Nintendo, if you can reach out to us and please just make this happen real lickety-split, that would be nice.
My uncle works there.
Yeah,
he can help.
All of our uncles work at Nintendo. Well, thanks again to special guest producer Arcada. Glass Reflection can be found on YouTube as well as Twitter. It's a fantastic show, lots of reviews on anime, and it's a show that Adam and I watch regularly, and he's a very long-term friend. So thanks again for being our guest producer on this episode.
And thanks to everyone who listened and watched us talk about our crazy Mario Kart ideas.
And with that, I cannot believe that I lost the very first episode of our show.
Yeah, I'm hoping to hold on to what is the next game belt as long as I can, but who knows what'll happen next time.
Yeah, well, folks, we'll see you next game.
Next game.